What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to an all-new episode of TAETRO Talks. It's such an exciting day today with the release of Ableton Live 11, and for this special day and this special occasion, we have none other than Ableton Certified Trainer Claire Marie Lim, aka dolltr. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Nick. This is really cool. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet all of you and see you. Oh, I've met some of you before, but we're back.
Yes, I'm excited. This is the second time you've been on the show, and we were just chatting yesterday. Maybe some folks might have missed that, and if you did, you should go to youtube.com/343labs because we had a really great chat yesterday about making music, being an artist, all that good stuff, and that's over there. And today, we were planning on chatting again about some of the similar stuff, and we are fortunate enough to be in a position. I mean, you as a certified trainer you've had the beta for a while now, right? For Ableton Live 11.
Yeah, that's correct. So I actually got to take a look at it beforehand, and actually you did too, Nick. So.
Yes, yeah. You've had it much longer than I have, but yesterday we were like, is it going to come out tomorrow? Is it going to come out Wednesday? So I'm super stoked that it came out today and we can be on the show and talking about it. So Folks in the chat, I see a bunch of people on both channels. Please ask your questions. I'm sure Claire will be able to answer a lot of them since
I'm not sure about that
with it for so long. She knows everything about it.
Oh God.
I'm putting on the pressure.
That's the thing, though. I think a lot of people, and I'll just put it out there, maybe also to save a couple of my other fellow certified trainers too. But I think a lot of people assume that Ableton certified trainers know everything. But I think what really defines or what helps to make an Ableton certified trainer a good CT is the yes and kind of mentality. It's a bit similar to improvisation too, but it's like, okay, even if we don't know something, let's find out together. So that's kind of what I encourage everyone to think about, as even as we talk about this today, if we speak about something in Live 11 that we aren't sure of, let's find out. Let's dig into it and let's find out. I think that's the most exciting part about this, because we don't know everything too. I think the only people who do know everything are really the people who work at Ableton.
Yeah,
and maybe they don't even know everything. So we'll see.
Yeah, and it's worth saying it's still a beta, so things are changing, things are being added, things are being fixed, things are being tweaked. It's all that. But the broad strokes of the new features, there's a lot of features I'm excited about. I'm sure there's a lot of features that you're excited about. So we'll probably talk mostly about the things that we know the most about and things we're most excited about. We probably won't know the answer to every single question in the chat. But with that said, hello to chat. I see you're all here and excited. I hope you're all all excited for Live 11 and for this chat today. I see Subhash, what's going on? From India, hello, nice to see you. Lakshit, hello. Nico, Kostek, Shab, or 5Hab. I don't know how to say some of these names sometimes. Adil Constantine, happy Ableton Day, yes. Semi Gamer is here. Samuel Messiah is here. Yes, who else? Kalana. My mom is here. Of course. Horace. Hello. My dad is here. Wow.
Hi,
Two for the
Teacher's
price of
Dad.
one.
Wow.
Watch out.
This is a successful stream.
I just imagine them both sitting in the living room, like with their individual laptops open, or do they watch it on the same screen? Like that's what I'm wondering. Like,
my parents
I'm just
use
wondering the
iPads,
logistics.
So
very
it's like
fancy.
it's yeah. Maybe it's also because like I don't know. There's always this for some reason. There's always this like image I have in my head about like sorry, mom and dad, older people like looking with their iPads and like just lying in bed and doing that. So I feel like they're doing that at the moment.
That's so funny. Tyra White is here. Ray Calvin. I'm sure I missed some names. Maya and Max, hello. And I also want to say hello to the 343 Labs chat. So folks in my chat, thank you. Thank you for being here. Absolutely. I'm so glad you're here. But if you didn't know, 343 Labs is streaming every single day with electronic music production, like educational content, like really awesome shows. Like think about like watching a live tutorial every single day where you can ask the instructor questions and learn something new about your DAW or about making music. So that said, if you're in my chat, go to youtube.com/343labs right now and just give them a subscribe. You can even watch the stream over there because we're streaming both places. Yeah. And I want to give a shout out to the folks in that chat over there. John H. Kingston III, Andrew Duke. You guys are always holding it down in the chat, so thank you for being here. Clifford Christopher, hello. Jay said, who made this beat? That was my beat in the intro. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah. Enigmatic Onion. What is going on? What an epic name, Enigmatic Onion.
Yeah.
Regine Siller is back for the second day. Thanks for coming back and checking out this chat again. And Todd Bone and Max Wild, of course, over in the 343 Lab chat. All right. We've got the table setting, the introductions out of the way. Where do we even start with this? I'll start by saying, even though I had a little, found out about Live 11 a little bit earlier than most, not quite as early as you, but I was surprised. I was so surprised to find out that Live 11 would be coming out so soon. It seems soon, does it not?
Yeah, I think like one thing that's always been talked about in the Ableton community as far as like software development goes is that compared to a good number of other companies out there that make tools for people to make music, they do have a little bit of a longer release cycle. And by that, I mean like the timing between things that are released, like different versions tends to be a little bit longer. So I kind of heard this down the grapevine and I can't really super 100% confirm this, but I think they are trying to shoot for more frequent releases and more frequent updates. So that's kind of a part of why this has happened. But I think it's some of the features, and we'll probably speak about this too, have been long overdue. So it's great to really see them being implemented.
For sure. A lot of really great, there's a lot of new stuff that's exciting to use, and then there's a lot of quality of life stuff, like workflow stuff that I'm excited about. So if they can continue to nail that, I think adding in both of those factors, fun new stuff to play with, and then quality of life, workflow stuff, I'll take all the new versions I can get. You know what I'm saying? I would have loved to get some new hardware, but alas. Nothing yet, but that'd be cool. Yeah, because they are a little all over the place with push 1 and then push 2 was kind of a short time frame. Now we've lived with push 2 for a while, which let's get into a new feature. I don't want to speculate and chat too much, but MPE. Let's talk about MPE.
Totally.
Because MPE and Ableton Live previously has been the bane of my existence because I was really into the Roly, I am into the Roly products. I got the Seaboard block and the Roly blocks and all that. And the whole thing about those controllers is MPE, right? You can slide, you can drag, you can use pressure, this added level of expression. And previously in versions of Live, this was a nightmare to set up. You had to set up multiple channels for every signal that was coming through. Just an absolute nightmare. So I do not feel like I was able to fully take advantage of those features. But now MPE fully in Ableton Live.
Yeah, totally. And it also I will say that it also is cool because push 2 does work with MPE as well. There is some MPE implementation. So if you do connect push 2 to Live 11, there is some kind of firmware. It's a quick update and it makes the polyphonic expression available. Yay!
Yeah, I think that's so epic to add well, it's not really like adding a feature, but like to unlock this feature that was just lying dormant, sleeping, waiting for the addition of MPE to the software. It's
Yeah,
so great. I mean, like,
totally.
and I can't wait. I haven't like played with it a ton yet, but I can't wait to like get my keyboard block out again and like really like go forward with it. Especially since it's not just for, you know, there's certain synths that are compatible with it. Of course, there's lots of third-party MPE instruments, but
Mhm.
Wavetable, I'm excited to play with Wavetable and MPE.
Totally. I think that's actually the example that I used in the video that I just put out on my channel about some of
Yes.
the dolltr favorites in live. But yeah, I think it's just great to use Wavetable because first of all, it is a native live device and it just works very clearly there. I think a lot of people when what I've noticed in a lot of my students especially is what prevents them from kind of taking that extra jump into MPE is really that they're a little bit scared of it or they're not
Mm-hmm.
exactly sure what it means. So Wavetable is really great because you can see the use of the matrices be very clear. And maybe this is something that at this point is getting a little bit more technical, but it's very clear to see what you're doing is affecting a certain parameter. So being able to map that out and make that connections a lot easier. So that's something I'm very happy about. Yay, Wavetable.
Yeah, so exciting. Um, yes, it's like a blessing. Yeah, I'm so excited because like previously it was like, oh, I'll go get another DAW, like use Bitwig or something, which like, you know,
You
other
should
DAWs are
still use
great.
Bitwig.
Yeah, Bitwig is still great, like for sure. But like when I'm like
Sorry,
thinking about,
Bitwig
okay, my
certified trainer also. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
gotta
you have so many certifications, it's unbelievable.
I'm not
I
sure
don't
what,
know how
but
you do it. Actually, somebody asked a pretty relevant question, Diego Reyes, which is going to take us off the Live 11 track, which we'll definitely get back to. But
Ooh.
I think it'd be cool if maybe you gave like a short version of this. He asks, "How can I become a certified trainer?"
Okay, cool. So at the risk of coming off direct, a really great way to become a certified trainer is to make sure that you're taking initiative about how to become a certified trainer. So go ahead and Google it, and you will be able to have a really useful webpage from the Ableton website that pops up and tells you about how to become a certified trainer. I think that's one really great thing about this information. It is available publicly. It's not available super in depth because there are certain things that are covered under an NDA if you are a CT, but it has all the information you need to get started. So take initiative, go ahead and Google it, check that out, and yeah, see how that goes.
Yes, because if you want to be a certified trainer, it is not easy from what I understand.
Yeah, we
So you
actually
will
had
have
this
to.
talk the last time. Do you remember?
Yeah, we talked a bit about it. Like, it's just like I look at what's out there. I see like what you do and like what Max Wild had to
Yes.
do, like who recently got certified. Wow, it's a lot. But yeah, if you take that first step into like figuring it out for yourself, like that's gonna put you on a better road than Claire here like explaining it to you. You know, like
Yeah, totally. And I think
no
there's
room for
also,
that.
yeah, totally. There's only so much that some you can ask someone and they can explain to you, but when you're
Sure.
able to learn on your own, that's something else. And maybe that's something that I think if at the, without like trying to pat ourselves on the back, I think both of us are kind of good at doing that, like giving people the tools to learn on their own. And that's
That is
something
the
that I think is a
mission.
goal. Yeah.
Yes, that is the whole goal because like I could do a tutorial, I can release tutorial videos all day, but at a certain point I got to give people the tools to like go build something for themselves. And you know, if I can put myself out of a job essentially, if people don't need my channel or people don't need to watch my tutorials anymore, I've done my job. That's how
Yeah,
I feel.
totally. And I think you do an excellent job at that. Like it's
I appreciate it.
the
You do it.
honestly,
You do an excellent job as well. And I want to say that Claire's YouTube channel is linked down below, and you all should check that out. Not only because she's got a video on Ableton Live 11, but also because you've been doing these really epic, like short snippet, a trick a day videos, which I think is
yeah,
just like epic. Like that's so genius to do
thank
like these
you.
little like 2 minute videos. So basically, like if you have questions, we're talking about Googling things, but also like finding the content creators and like the educators that like generally make content around what you want to do, because you could Google a question or you could go to the Daltrick YouTube channel and like just scroll through and through the trick a day things and be like, oh yeah, like how do I do this like very basic thing and just like consume that. So I think you're very smart for doing that. You basically like are creating like the Ableton Live manual for beginners, but via
Oh,
your
thank
YouTube
you.
channel.
Thanks so much. To be honest though, oh my goodness, do you hear that? I'm
I
not sure if
don't.
okay, cool. No, then the SM7 11B is doing its job. So there's like a
Nice.
giant helicopter outside of my house.
Oh, watch out.
I was like, whoa, it sounded as if it was flying very low. But yeah, so I mean, the idea of a trick a day actually came from some of my younger students in particular. So I'm a professor at a couple of colleges, but I also work a lot with youth as well. And with kids, they're so wonderful. I love working with them, but they do have a very short attention span.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things I wanted to create, bite-sized content that I could tell my kids to watch, and I could be like, okay, Miss Claire is telling you to watch that video, go do it. It takes 2 minutes of time, go do the thing. And the second thing is that I've noticed that even though I do keep my artist project and my professional stuff pretty separate. So for those of y'all who know me, you'll know that I try to keep dolltr stuff as like an artist very separate from professional education stuff that I do, and also the live experience design stuff that I do, the music tech stuff that I do. So whenever I have braids, that's usually when I'm dolltr. But a lot of my kids, they liked that personality a lot. So a trick a day was kind of like that. The one time that I would ever let that cross, like the educational stuff and the artist persona type of things. But I find that the kids enjoy it, so I'll do it for them.
Totally. Yeah. And it's not just kids who need that stuff broken down. There's a lot of people like later in life figuring this stuff out that like need that like very, very basic breakdown. And I think it's always worth breaking it down. Basic. That's like my whole thing.
Yay.
Chat is very excited. Our friends at Sensel are in the chat.
Sensel! Hi, Mr.
Hello,
Sensel.
Mr. Sensel. And Sensel, of course, being an MPE compatible controller. So I'm excited to use my morph with this new iteration of Live as well. Which direction do we go next? Let's bring it back to talking about Live 11. Let's talk about comping, because this is like huge. I was like, this is so smart, and this makes my life so much easier. Do you want to maybe explain to folks, give a general overview of like what comping is? Because that is a term that I haven't really heard or used since like being in school. Like I don't really use the term like comping, but maybe just give like a general overview.
Absolutely. So everyone, when you usually record pieces of audio, especially if you are, say, recording some kind of live instrument, oftentimes very common instruments might be, say, a guitar or a bass or vocals, if you're a vocalist. You might want to record different takes of the same line. And this is could be either to, figure out which one is the best or carrying the most emotional, the most effective emotions, or it's delivered in the best technical way. So being able to create different options for yourself is really important. And in a lot of other DAWs, Live, in a lot of other DAWs, this was implemented in a really great way that will let you record different takes and comp them, which basically means to create a composite. So comp is short for composite, and that means putting all of the best parts of each of the takes that you've done into a single take that you can then say, okay, this is the take that we're going to put into the record, or that we're going to put into whatever we're using, like a live performance backing track or whatever. And Live for a long time did not have a really smooth way of implementing this. So you would have to create different audio tracks, like 5 different audio tracks for 5 different takes, and record all of those differently, and then maybe create a 6 audio track to be able to combine all of those together without destroying all of the previous takes. So in Live 11, though, this is really a lot smoother. For all of our friends who have used, say, Logic before or Pro Tools, it's a little bit similar to how the takes work there, and playlisting in Pro Tools specifically, and the cycle recording in Logic. So that's a better implementation in Live 11. You're able to pick and choose the best of different takes. You can audition them before you select what you want to decide on, and then you can just all combine them within that singular track without having to create like 10 different tracks.
Yeah, it's crazy. Takes. And so like for people to understand, like when I would work with a vocalist, like just to further like explain it, I would work with a vocalist and they'd be singing over the track, and we don't stop after every track and say, after every take and say, okay, was that a good one? Was that a good one? No, we go for like 5 takes, and then we figure out which parts of those takes can combine to make one great track. Previously, to do that, I'd set up this big group audio track, and so I essentially was doing take lanes, but like in like little groups, and it wasn't as convenient because you have to stop after every take, restart, etc. But now you can just go with like an 8-bar verse and be like, all right, sing that verse, and then once it's up, sing it again, and then sing it again, and then sing it again, and it'll keep making take lanes. At the end of that session, you've got like 5 takes, and you just so easily like click, okay, I want the first phrase from take 1, the second phrase from take 3, and you just like make this amazing thing. I'm from that perspective, it's awesome. It works with MIDI as well. So say if you're like soloing over something, or you're like writing a synth line over a verse, same thing applies. You can do as many takes as you want, combine, mix and match. But I'm also excited for like getting a little bit weird with it, like doing weird stuff with like percussion or like samples, and chopping them together. It seems like a really fun way to do that.
Totally. As far as that goes, and the getting weirder stuff, I'm so glad that you mentioned the MIDI too, Nick, because it does work also with the MPE note expression editing. So I was doing some testing, and I was like doing weird stuff with push, and it gets all of those really like
that's cool,
really, really detailed like pressure differences, all of those things. And in a way, sorry for the comparison again, but it does kind of mirror a little bit of some things that were happening already in Bitwig. So, Team Bitwig. But yeah, Bitwig has had like MPE for a long time already, but now we're kind of getting onto a more even field with that level of implementation. So
it's so funny the way like different companies like implement different features, and how like very basic things, like I'm sure like to like a Pro Tools user, like this whole idea of take lanes is like, yeah, whatever. Like it took you guys till version 11. I get that. But also like I remember years ago when Pro Tools added clip gain, like being able to change the gain of like an individual clip. I remember seeing the promo for that and being like, what? Like you could not do this before in Pro Tools? And it's kind of like just full circle, because they all like have those moments of like, you couldn't do that and that, but you couldn't do that and that.
Yeah.
Like it's all over the place. It's crazy. I would never want to work for a software company, like having to come up with all these things and implement all these things. It seems like so mind-numbing.
Yeah, and actually, Nick, we had a quick. I was just like, I happened to look at the chat, and we had a quick question. That said, what makes Ableton Live 11 unique from other versions? And I have a couple of things that I'm thinking of as an answer to that. Do you want to start off? Oh, did you want to?
Oh, would you like me to start off?
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, I think there's a couple cool things. You can obviously watch like the features video, which like really like covers the flagship like new features. But take lanes, we just talked about that. Like that is a huge thing for me. Like especially if I'm going to be like writing songs or working with vocalists, like that's huge. MPE obviously huge. I think that's why we probably started with those two features. Those are probably the biggest for me. Things like being able to add more knobs to like macros, like adding like up to 16 macro knobs. Like I think about the audio effects racks that I use right now. For like my master like performance like effects rack, I use like 2 because it's 8 and 8 knobs. Now I can combine that all into a single rack. I think that's super convenient. Yeah. Fun stuff with like randomization and chants, things like that, like similar to Electron Gear, if anybody's familiar. That is a really fun way to be creative, using randomness and using chance, and especially like making loop-based music. A lot of the music I make is loop-based. Loops can get very stale and very boring and whatever. And this is just another tool in the toolbox to make loop-based music a little more interesting. Is like, okay, maybe only this melody or this note will only play every 5th time through the loop, or like just changing the randomness of it like that, being able to randomize effects. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, totally.
Know. But what do you have? What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think like, again, at the, I feel like I'm like constantly like giving people shade, but no, I don't mean to. But like, if you want to get a
You're all about the drama today.
No, I'm not. I just think like there are like a lot of things that we can answer and that we talk about. But if it's a very rudimentary thing, we've talked about this too. Just the idea of like doing a basic search and doing a Google. Like if you want a full list of every single new feature in Ableton Live, it is there for you. It is on the internet. You can go to ableton.com, which is the Ableton company website. But the power of us being here is that we can talk about some highlights. So that's, I think, what I prefer to do. And
not only some highlights, but like I think the important part of that is it goes back again to like finding content creators that you vibe with, like as an audience, because the two of us are obviously going to talk about things that are important to us, and you might go find another content creator that doesn't even talk about the things that we talk about. It talks about completely different features. So like it is a little bit of that too. Like figure out who you want to consume stuff from. But if you're looking for the general big picture stuff, like I want every single detail, every single whatever, I don't think there's any real content creator that can do that very, very well.
Yeah, and I think like just to your point about like finding specific things that are important to different creators, I think that's also just a really great opportunity to know different creators and to find
Yeah.
different kinds of content. So I, for example, I have a video on my channel. There's a really wonderful video that I want to heavily encourage people to view, and that's by Elephant, Thomas Glendening. He's also another
Yeah.
Ableton certified trainer. He goes by Elephant without all of the vowels except the E.
The first one.
Yeah,
Yes.
only the first one. All the other vowels are gone, but please check out his video. It's so good. There's also a really great preview video by Laura Escude, who's another Ableton certified trainer, and she's amazing. I love Laura so much. Hers is a little bit, I think it's slightly shorter, but it goes into, as a preview, into a course that she's doing on Ableton Live 11. So if you want to go through like a proper course, Laura is someone that you should definitely take a look at too.
Like, talk about learning from an expert with that. Holy smokes.
I love Laura so much. She's
so
the
cool.
best. She's such an inspiration. She was like the OG Ableton certified trainer. She's the very first. So yeah.
She's awesome. What can we even talk about? Like I just feel like slightly overwhelmed. Do you feel the same?
Absolutely. I think like we just chatted briefly before the stream started, but like I was like so anxious the entire morning. I feel exhausted at this point. I feel like we've gone through an entire day already, and it's also early for you on the West Coast, so it's a little bit earlier.
Yes, I know.
In the day.
Like it's only 10 a.m. here. I'm gonna be like exhausted after this stream. That's great. Thank you for all the enthusiasm in the chat, folks. I'm glad you are excited. Samuel Messiah asks, are comping and other features only a suite version? The website will definitely tell you what comes in what version. I have not consumed that. I think
that's... Oh, sorry. Go off.
Good. No, go ahead.
There's a good page on comparisons of live versions. So if you want to check which features are available and which one, there's a dedicated web page for that. Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like folks like thinking financially, folks who maybe like don't have live yet, if you do, there is a like upgrade path where like if you buy live 10 now, you get a free upgrade to 11, but then there's also like discounted upgrade paths for those of you who already own live 10 and would like to upgrade to 11 when it comes out. Also, another important point, well, two important points. When I was in college, I was able to take advantage of the student discount. So I highly recommend that if you are in school, take advantage of the student discount because you can save a lot of money there. Check your like products. If you've bought a controller or anything, sometimes random products come with like vouchers or stuff like that. So check that. And then the last thing is, I mentioned this before, but we're live on 343 Labs channel as well. And 343 Labs is doing a giveaway. Of a $200 Ableton voucher this week. Am I right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So if you jump over to the 343 Labs stream, you can get the link to enter for a chance to win that giveaway. And every day that you tune into the stream, I believe, gives you more chances. So if you tune in the rest of the week to the other shows, you get even more chances and just save more money. And especially now that folks are excited about getting Live 11, who wouldn't want to save a little bit of money?
Yeah, maybe, I'm not sure, but you probably would be able to like count that towards something that you might purchase. So yeah. Hope you win that.
Yes, good luck. Good luck.
In the chat.
Okay, very cool. Hello Mage Prometheus, welcome to the chat. Hello The Chosen One. Hello Raj. There's a few people who have jumped in and I didn't say hello to, but thanks for jumping in late. And this stream will obviously be up later, so you can watch it from the beginning.
I see a couple of questions like about stuff we've already talked about. So yeah, just as a reminder, everyone, you can rewind, and you can also like rewind right now, and you can jump back with us after you found what you're looking for. So yeah.
Anything else in particular you want to chat about with 11?
Yeah, sure.
Like anything else standing out to you?
Totally. I think the randomization thing that you mentioned was definitely really big for me. Two of my other big ones were the follow action updates and also the follow tempo. So follow actions for anyone who does a lot of session view based stuff. If you're ever doing things related to a lot of clips and a lot of improvisatory material, follow actions are a really great way of being able to create different sequences of clips. If you have them all in a track in session view, you have them in columns, right? So you're able to assign certain actions to each of the clips to either say them, oh, play the next clip after, say, 8 bars, or play the previous clip after 2 bars. You can control things really specifically like that end up being really cool in a live performance setting. And I personally use a lot of that in my live performance too, especially when I'm doing improvisatory things. The new feature or the new way that follow actions is implemented is a lot of it is really based on a probability or a chance scale. So you will be able to control things and be like, okay, I want a 50% chance for this clip to go to the next clip, or I want like a 37% chance that I want all the clips to stop at this point. So I think it's very cool to be able to play around with that. So that was one thing for me. The other thing was the follow tempo thing, which I tried out and was so interesting. So follow tempo, maybe this might also pertain to a few people in the chat if you've ever, say, played in a live band situation before. I don't know about your experiences, Nick, but sometimes I've played with drummers who like get really annoyed by having to play it with a click.
With a click track.
Yeah. They just kind of want to like go on their own tempo. And follow tempo makes that possible. So what it tries to do is it's a really wonderful algorithm that's been developed that tries to listen to an incoming audio signal and then match live's tempo to that. And I tried to test it out quite extensively. So I tested it out first of all with an external drum pattern coming into live, and that actually worked really well. So I think the tempo was able to like fluctuate between like 119 and like 121, and it was pretty accurate. The other thing I tried was with my voice, and it actually worked really well too.
Interesting.
So I tried like an experiment, and I was like singing a line from somewhere that was, granted, it was a little bit easier, so it had a lot of quarter notes and eighth notes in the melodic patterns, but it still managed to kind of get a good grasp of whatever tempo I was at. And I could check this again by also turning on the metronome, so to be able to hear that. But that's a really cool feature, everyone. So if you're ever in like a live band setting, or if you're a drummer yourself and you want to play along with Ableton Live and maybe use Live more, say, for audio processing, you could absolutely do that with the follow tempo.
Yeah, and it could definitely be cool, not just for keeping like, you know, a fluid tempo during a single track, but also for doing like drastic changes and stuff too. Like I'd be interested to see like how it does with that. There is a Max for Live device that does that folks can use in Live 10, but I believe now it's going to be just straight up built in, which is super cool.
I might be wrong about this, but I need to remember exactly. But so again, I need to corroborate this, but I think Max for Live device that you're talking about, that creator is the person who helps with the implementation in Live 11.
Makes perfect sense.
So, which totally makes sense, and I think they managed to really fine tune it so that it will work a lot better as an inbuilt feature in Live. So very excited for that too.
Awesome. Yeah. Stoked for that. I lost my train of thought where I was going. Oh, because I was thinking about like, I wonder what tempo changing like that on the fly does for CPU, but that made me think of like the new, just the way it shows you like your CPU usage. So for those of you who like fight that battle with CPU, you can now kind of see track by track like how much a track is like sucking up your CPU, and you can see the percentages in the top. So you no longer have to guess like, oh, well, I think it's this plugin that's like making everything crash and then freeze that track. You can see right at the bottom like what is taking up a lot of CPU.
Totally. I'm super excited for that, especially because like in live performance and the experience design field that I do. So I help a lot of folks, or at least before COVID, I used to help a lot of folks with like live events and like performance, getting their live setups going. And man, that would be such an issue. The thing that you just mentioned, like finding that one track that's causing all of the CPU to come crashing down. So now with the new metering, we just have to pop up that option and we can see individually in each track what's going on. So that's super helpful. So fingers crossed that live events will actually come back soon. So use it. We can use that feature.
This is like so much to talk about. Like there's so many like little devices that I'm excited for. I'm excited for the new, there's a couple things. Like I think they're doing a good job, and they've done this since like 9 and 10 too, of like things you would have used external like third-party plugins for, now like just making them native live devices. So I think about what they're doing with Chorus, Flanger, and Phaser now, like putting them into one device. Right? I'm right about that?
Yeah.
It's like a single device now. Yeah. And also, but the thing that excites me about that is because I use a doubler by Waves a lot to like thicken sounds or like make voices, you know, sound bigger.
Totally.
And there's now a doubler like feature within that. And then also with the reverb, the hybrid reverb device that they're adding, which combines like algorithmic and convolution reverb. Very fancy like words for people out there, but like it's just like different styles of reverb, and like convolution reverb taking impulses from like actual spaces, so you can sound like you're in they're it's like sampling, but for a reverb signal. That's the best way I can describe it. So you can sound like you're in this specific cathedral or something like that. But there's things within that are very similar to Valhalla reverb, like adding shimmer on top of things. Like these effects that you would have to go third party for are now coming natively to live. So I think they're doing a good job of like watching, like, oh, people use this like third party. Like, couldn't we just build that ourselves so people don't have to, like go search for it elsewhere? And I appreciate that from them as a software company.
Yeah, totally. And I think also, at least from again, I keep going back to like the CPU and the live stuff, but
Yep.
I'm always like, the more native devices that you can use within live, the better your CPU is. I think I always get into this not argument, but a lot of strong debating with my clients who are very insistent on using something like Serum in a live performance
Yep.
context. And I love Serum myself too, but I almost exclusively use it only for production stuff when I'm not running that risk of a live performance. But
When
now
you don't want your computer to crash.
totally. But now, like, it's two things. I can either prove to them that yes, it is Serum that's causing the CPU stuff because we can meter it, or we can say, okay, let's see expressive we can get with some of the MPE stuff from Wavetable or any other inbuilt things. So lots of opportunity there.
Yep. What have we not talked about that you want to talk about?
Let me think. There are so many things. I feel like
there are so many things. We don't have to comprehensively cover them all. We can talk about other stuff, right? Chat, I'm sure you're interested in other things.
Cool.
There was a question about the mics. The mics we both are using are the Shure SM7B.
Ah, yes. Oh, and also we're like kind of symmetrical today, right?
Oh, let's show it off, folks. Check this out. Matching shirts. Watch out. But you know what's so funny? So these shirts are from Loop 2018?
Yes.
Was Loop 2018 like 2 years ago exactly?
God. It was.
Because I got a Snapchat memory today of being like in LA, and I didn't live in LA at the time, so I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago today, which is so crazy.
Happy 2-year anniversary for Loop.
It's wild. We were at the same Loop and the same NAMM, and we did not even know each other.
That's awesome.
Here we are
Next
now,
Loop.
matching shirts. Yeah, awesome. For sure. Folks, if you have other questions, dump them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer. Like we're catching up with this beta as much as possible. So we know what we know from our perspectives. We don't know everything, What about the special, like this question? Rio asks, what about the special features in Ableton Live 11? Nobody can answer that question. So we talked about a lot of special features.
Yeah, we talked about actually all
Live
of things
11.
that, as far as like the 343 Labs chat goes, because I'm trying to keep my eye on that at the moment. We actually talked about a lot of these things, everyone. So if you popped in late, no worries. Thank you for being here anyway. But don't forget that you can always rewind to check about stuff we've already discussed before, because we want to try to keep things a little bit moving forward too. Nick, do you have any questions on your side of the chat? I don't know if you do.
I'm watching. I think we've covered a lot of things. Oh, thoughts on adding more chain selectors? I don't know. I don't use chain selectors that much.
I use
Do
chain
you?
selectors actually. Yeah. So the chain selector stuff is cool because like we talked about just now, the idea of macro snapshots and being able to take that. Now, let's say if you wanted different clips in the same track to have different settings for macros, you could absolutely do that with some automation in clip envelopes and use that to navigate chain selectors. That's something that I've actually covered in one of my previous streams on the 343 Labs YouTube channel on my show Tips and Tricks. So if you do want to head over to that channel and check that video out, I talk a little bit about how to use chain selector.
Yeah, it's convenient for the way I think of it is like if I don't want to have like a million tracks set up for like a bunch of different instruments, but I want to be able to transition to a different instrument for a different part of a song or something, then I'll set up a chain selector, but I don't use it that much. Can you talk about like a use case that you use like chain selectors
Yeah,
for?
totally. So I would say that for me personally, people use it in many different ways, but I will say that I most often use it to live in the context of live sets or live performance.
Yeah.
So chain selector is a really great way of, let's say you have a keyboard controller. Maybe actually this could be a really good example. So maybe you're doing a live performance and the only controller that you have is the Akai PK Mini. So it's pretty small. It doesn't have a lot of real estate for keys, but we do have a couple of good knobs. So one thing that we could do with those knobs, it's let's say you wanted to play some kind of synthesizer parts across the duration of your live set. You could have all of these synthesizer parts stacked up in an instrument rack on one single MIDI track in live, and then you would be able to use that knob to switch between the different sounds without having to touch your computer and to individually arm each of those individual tracks that you wanted to play. So because of that, I often think of it as I don't know if anyone out there uses Reason, but I think of it often similar to the Reason Combinator. That's what I used to use Reason a lot for. And that lets you switch between different instruments without having to always click around in your computer. So it ends up becoming a lot smoother, more often than not for a live performance setting, at least in my experience. So, yeah.
Sure. So just load up like 5 Serum presets and like switch between them in a chain selector, right?
Yeah, totally. And no, honestly, and with a chain selector, this is so many times. Oh my goodness. But we can also map the on-off device buttons. So because of that, when you're switching between different instruments, you can also turn off a specific instance of our 5 serums. you can make sure that you only have one of the serums on at a time, and that's also going to help a lot of your CPU.
Totally. Pedro Mattis, I would say, asks and answers their own question and says, one question, do you think it is vital to know music theory in order to produce? And then says, I know almost nothing about music theory and it is difficult for me to be creative. And I think that that's your answer there, my friend. Like I'm not a purist whatsoever. I think like there's many routes to like learning music theory. And I think the idea of learning music theory can look different for people. Like doesn't mean you go to school and take a music theory class. It can mean like you really study the music you like and figure out like the formula behind it. And there's tons of producers, like a lot of sample-based beat makers like that just don't know are not classically trained in music theory is what I'll say, but have some general understanding of theory, have been massively successful. But you just answered that question yourself by saying I'm having trouble being creative. So yes, of course, you should learn music theory if you're struggling. And I always describe it as a language. Like you can learn a few words in a language and probably sound not that smart. But if you are fluent in a language and you speak it very eloquently, you can have just a more complex conversation, and that's the same for writing music. So you can either write music as a non-native speaker or as somebody who doesn't know the language that well, and your music's only going to sound, so good or so okay. You become more fluent in the language. You just have more tools, more words to pull out to form more eloquent sentences, and a better understanding of how to say what you want to say, aka how to make the music you want to make. I don't know. What's your take on that, Claire?
I actually completely agree, Nick. I think that a lot of the time people try to ask themselves if there's a connection that like, okay, I need to have A so that I can make B happen. I don't think music theory is one of those instances. But I think the more that you know, the more you'll be helped. Like that that's like kind of doing yourself a little bit of a favor in a way. A lot of my students, especially when they first start learning anything related to music production, doesn't necessarily have to be live. It could be another software that they learn from me. A lot of them come into the game without any knowledge of music theory, but because they were really motivated, they would do things like read up. They would go and look at videos about like music theory so that they could help themselves along the way too. And I think through doing that, they were able to just like take themselves very quickly to the next level. So it's not just having that mentor necessarily, but also having your own initiative and your own time. There is a lot of time that goes into learning these things, right? So having the own time that you're willing to put in to learning something. And I think that is true for a lot of things in life other than music theory. But if we're looking at one video though, off the top of my head, there's a really great video by Guy Michelmore, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name, but he does a consolidated look at a lot of basic music theory in about, I think, 16 or 17 minutes. So if you're looking for a good video, go ahead and type that in and see if you can find that video. It's a really great look at overview at a lot of the basic concepts of music theory, which I also will add. We don't often label it so in such detail, but it's very much Western music theory. I will say that I have taught a lot of students who may not have necessarily been educated in the Western music theory sense, but let's say they had a background in maybe Indian music, so like Hindustani or like Karnataka music, and that also does help them a lot too, because there are lots of parallels between the things that we see in Western music and even other cultures too, So you'll get things like rags in the Indian culture, and which I also did study, so that's the only reason why I know this much about it. But
You know
no.
so
It's
much.
just like I did it.
No.
I did it in like as part of my goodness, it's blanking as part of my A-level studies when I was in high
Mm,
school back in the day. So
fancy.
we had to do that. At the time I was like, why are we doing this? But like years down, like I totally get it. And I think it's only
Yeah.
helped me be more understanding and more open to international music cultures that aren't just, baked into like the Western way of thinking about music. So yeah, even like Chinese music too. You got things like I don't know if anyone else knows this, but like things like Jiangnan Siju and stuff like that. That's also very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that was good about the school that I went to is there was a very big world music program and African drum and dance, and there was a lot of like African drumming classes, and some were actually graduation requirements. So I learned a lot about rhythm and interlocking rhythms and stuff from taking that African drum class. Like this amazing stuff.
Mm,
So yeah, I don't know how we got there from like
music
music theory. Like
theory.
understand like
Yeah,
different types of music.
totally.
Yeah, like all, I guess like there's a moral of the story there. It's like whatever music you like, whatever music you're into, if there it doesn't matter like what culture it's from, where it's from, there's something you can take from it, something you can learn from it, and there's a lot of universal things that carry through all of this like music from different
Mhm.
cultures too. So you will find that it's presented in different ways, the styles are different, the instrumentation is different. There's a lot of differences, but there are some core concepts that carry through. So
Yeah, totally.
always be connecting the dots.
Mhm.
Good question from the 343 Labs chat.
Ooh.
Lisa G asks, how do you guys work through writer's block? I feel like you, Claire, you make a lot of music. You remix music, you cover tracks. Like, you ever
Beatober.
struggle? Yeah, Beatober. I guess that's a perfect transition for writer's block because I'll say briefly, like the thing for me is like I can always sit down and make music, and but I remember being younger and like feeling like writer's block was a thing, and now I do not feel like writer's block is a
Yeah.
thing. But I'm interested in hearing like your perspective on like, do you get writer's block? How do you deal with it? Like, is writer's block real? I say it's fake.
Interestingly enough, Nick, I completely agree with you.
Yeah,
I think I used to hear about this term a lot when I was younger, and maybe I might be overgeneralizing, but I feel like I at the time was using it as an excuse for every time that I didn't make something. It's
sure.
like, and I don't know if is that making sense. It's a weird way to
Yeah,
kind of conceptualize it, but I think like I think about like for every moment that I sat down, say in front of my computer or even in front of a keyboard, back when I was doing like piano stuff and I couldn't compose something or I couldn't produce something, I used that as an excuse to say why. But oftentimes it's just I think if you ever feel like you can't write something or you can't make something, do it. It's just that first
yeah.
step of being able to do it. I think the maybe a better question to ask yourselves at a later stage is like, is the thing that I made good or bad? But in that moment, if you can throw that out of the way and just make a thing, you're no longer
Yes.
blocked. If that makes any sense at all.
No, it makes total sense. And my response to that is usually like, if you have writer's block, that means you've written all the bad ideas.
Mm,
Because no matter what, like I can sit at a keyboard and unless there's a wall between me and the keyboard, I can put my hands on it and play a melody. Like whether or not that melody is good or bad is up for judgment later. But in this moment, if I'm writing music and that's what I'm sitting down to do, I'm going to write music no matter if it's good or if it's bad. And I'm not going to judge it in that moment. And I think, especially thinking about Beatober and like being on that daily grind of making music and videos is I work on instinct most of the time and I don't dwell on ideas. So I come up with an idea or I'll shed it a little bit, like I'll work it out. Like I'll be like this melody's almost there and I'll work it out, but not for that long. I won't like sit and dwell on a particular part. I'll get it so that in that moment I feel like it's quote unquote good enough, but at the end it becomes something good. Like it all comes together and is good, and I can take another layer of revision and look at it again later after it's written, but at that point I've already gotten through what could cause the mental block of like something you would call writer's block, because I think that there's a bit of like a glorification of like music and making art and stuff, especially for beginners at the beginning, where you hear these stories of artists and they talk about like inspiration and being just like divinely inspired to create something. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes we're divinely inspired to create something, I guess you could say. But other times it's like, no, I'm a musician. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to work. That's why I call this my body of work. That's why I like my artistic like output. That's why I call it my work, because I'm putting work in. I'm not just sitting here and waiting for, a bolt of lightning to strike me. So I would say if you have writer's block, you could be trying to rely on a bolt of lightning to strike you, and that is not a sustainable model for an artist. Like you can't wait for it.
I think the idea of the glorification that you just mentioned, and like the romanticization of like what it means to make art, I think is it's something that I think has taken away a lot of the truth behind that. Even between the two of us, what we do, it just takes a lot of consistency and a lot of hard work. Like people don't always see that on in the front. But even on a more educational stand, like when I go into the class, but I spend like hours outside of the class preparing for that class. Same thing with anything that we put out like as a video. It might be a 1 minute video for Beatober or something, but there's so much that's gone into that too. And I think like that idea of you briefly mentioned just now the idea of like giving yourself the agency to write on instinct and not dwell on. I think that's something that I was going for too when I did Beatober, which thank you also for spearheading. That was awesome.
Thank you for participating in such an amazing way.
Yeah, I think one thing that I did want to do, at least for the Beatober stuff, is since I knew it would be an everyday thing, I only kind of gave myself about 30 minutes to prep what I needed to do. And then it was like, let's film the video. Let's just do it because I have other things I need to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was one of the main points of having like a time constraint, like a challenge, because a time constraint and limitations like that are great anyway, even if you're not doing a challenge like a 31-day beat challenge. But having that constraint of, okay, like I'm doing this every day for 31 days. I'm not stopping doing any of the other work that I'm doing. Like I can't. So I have to find a way to make this work in my day. So what is achievable within my day every single day for the next 31 days? And when you put yourself in that box, it makes a lot more possible than you expect. I read a thing on the internet the other day, like a stupid like quote image that was like, if you give yourself 3 days to clean your house, it'll take you 3 days to clean your house. If you give yourself 3 hours to clean your house, it'll take you 3 hours to clean your house. So like it's all about that like package we put things in. And for some of us, like we have no accountability partners. Like we just make music. We're musicians, we're artists, but nobody's there saying, okay, I got to release something on this day, I got to release something on that day. So we have to be that for ourselves. We have to say like, I'm going to get something done, and it doesn't matter if like at the point I said like I'm going to get this done by X day or X time, whatever I have done, that's what it's going to be. Not like, oh, let me wait another week. Oh, let me wait another week, because we can just keep kicking the can down the road and infinitely tweak things. I think that's one of the drawbacks of like we talked about this yesterday, like wearing many hats, being independent artists who do like all the things. It's one of the drawbacks because you're constantly you have feedback for every aspect and every level of the project: the mix, the musical ideas, the mastering, the marketing and release schedule. So when you have feedback for all that, it's hard to progress through the stages because you're constantly processing feedback for every previous stage at the same time.
Yeah, and I think like it's like totally real that it gets super overwhelming. I've been at points when even right now at this moment I feel overwhelmed just because of
Same.
the way the entire Live 11 launch has gone. I'm like, oh god, okay. But and also because we have two events. I'm participating in two events that are immediately coming tomorrow and also the day after about Live 11 stuff. So they're both user group events. So if anyone wants to check that out, you can head over to either my channel or.
Are those open? Like anybody can join?
So the one tomorrow is on the 11th. That is specifically for Berklee College of Music students, but there's going to be a
Cool.
broadcast to my YouTube channel. So my bits will be
Awesome.
able to be in Zoom with me. So my students will be with me in Zoom and colleagues as well. That's going to be with Rishab, also who you know. So we're
Yes, Rashab is
so
so
Rishab and
cool.
I are both members of the Electronic Production and Design Department at Berklee College of Music, and we're also both CTs. So we'll be doing like a joint user group with the Berklee kids tomorrow, and that will be available
Nice.
for broadcast on my YouTube channel. So you might not be able to chat with us necessarily, but you can always check that out. And then Thursdays though is going to be public, so that's our 343 Labs one. Very excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be on the 343 Labs YouTube channel. Sorry, cut you off. Yes.
No, I was going to say, yeah, youtube.com/343labs, not to beat a dead horse, but go into that giveaway for the $200 voucher. We were talking about music theory before, and we didn't even mention that Ableton certified trainer Max Wild does a live show at the same time we're doing a show right now, but on Thursday, he does Theory Thursday, and he's got a really amazing lineup of shows planned for the next few weeks where he's basically taking a genre of music, doing like a how to make X genre, and he's going to be taking like a music theory approach on it, and there's so much you'll be able to learn from that. Like it's an hour a day with an Ableton certified trainer, a really amazing instructor. So watch that live. I can't stress it enough. Go to 343 Labs YouTube channel and subscribe and watch. And then, so you get the music theory lesson that day, then you go to the Ableton user group and watch more certified trainers talk about Live 11 and go even deeper with it. So it's a win-win-win. It's all
Release
free.
time is like where all the CTs kind of like come out of the woodwork and we're like, we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny.
Totally. No, but that would be a great one because the Thursday one is pretty special. There's two CTs. So it's myself and it's Ben Casey. Ben is CT, but he also is from Ableton. So if anyone does have questions, that might be a really good opportunity to directly ask someone from Ableton. And again, Ben is a wonderful person. So he's really open to a lot of questions. So yeah, come by.
Ben Casey is a great guy. When I worked in nonprofit and I worked at a Boys and Girls Club, which had a studio, he actually helped us get some Ableton pushes from the Push Initiative. So that was really great. So he's a really cool guy. So go check him out with Claire at the meetup. Yes, I'm scanning the chat. Has anything caught your eye in the chat? Lots of positivity. I'm thankful for that.
Let's see.
Very cool. It's all nature. The sound of music.
No. I thought I saw something, but I think we already answered it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna answer Regine's question over there because she's they're asking for the spelling of.
Yeah. Cool. I got that. Thank you.
Cool.
You got.
I just copied it. Yeah, I copied and pasted because somebody answered in my chat. Yes, I guess like
someone
we can.
Mentioned in your chat that they don't know how push works yet to this day. Well, you're in luck. I run a daily series on my YouTube channel that's called A Trick a Day with my artist persona, so not me. But
not you, superhero version
of Claire. She does daily push tidbits or live tidbits, so anything related to music tech stuff. Most of the time it's related to live or push. I just wrapped up I did like 40 days of push, I think. So now I'm doing other stuff like Live 11 stuff. So there will be more days of Live 11. But maybe after that we'll go back to push because there are a couple of features like we talked about earlier on in the stream, Nick, about like how push works more with Live 11 stuff, like the MP things. So yeah.
I get excited about that. I get excited when hardware companies like Novation is a great one that does it. Like with the circuit, like they just kept like updating it with firmware and it just kept getting better and better. So like you didn't have to like buy a different device or something. And Live seems to be going, or Ableton seems to be going the same route with, they have this hardware that they can just keep adding to. We kind of touched on that earlier.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. We are coming to an end here. I wonder if there's any parting words. I mean, we were going to talk more about Beatober, but we talked a lot about that yesterday, so folks should go watch yesterday's chat and talk about that challenge. Maybe, Claire, like, how do you do it all is my question. That's my question. You're a professor, like you like teach multiple age groups in multiple places. You are an artist yourself. Like,
oh God, no.
You asked me this question yesterday. Here we go. I'll throw it on you. What's your vision? What's your vision for Claire and for dolltr? Like maybe like 6 months, a year, or further down the road. Like, what's the vision?
Retribution. Oh my
yes.
God. I don't know. I do think like I've never actually, it's funny that I do so much education stuff now because I never actually set out to be an educator. It kind of fell into my lap in a very weird way that I am very grateful for. But I definitely do think I want to keep going on with that. Like I want to be able to keep working on different education initiatives. One thing, if people want to find out more about that, you can head over to my website. Now I can't remember the website. I need to find it. I think it should be clairemarielym.com/learnings. If you do want to be in touch with me, I teach at 343 Labs too. So learn from my
Yes.
343 Labs. That's why we're talking about this. But yeah, so that's kind of like the vision is to keep being in education, whether that means being still at teaching like at a college level or in other places. Like you mentioned, I also work with other younger groups too sometimes. So regardless of what that means, I think I do want to still be doing education in general. For the art stuff, I do want to keep doing that too. I will say that I think it's a little different because at least for the way things work in my head, dolltr is like a totally separate thing from Claire. So we'll see what she does. how she's about that. But ideally, yeah.
Do you feel the push and pull? Do you feel the push and pull from like?
Absolutely.
I think it's so interesting the way it's very much like Bruce Wayne, Batman, like they're completely different people. Do you get like insecure, like nervous about like, oh, am I spending too much time here and not enough time here? Like neglecting like one of your children, aka your teaching side or your artist side. Like how do you mentally like cope with that? Because I'm in that headspace a lot too.
Yeah, 100% of the time. I think like, to be honest, Nick, I don't cope with it. I just but I think
you just like hope it works out.
Yeah, I just like hope it works out. But I think it's so, and that's a part of the reason why like I try to also, I'm trying to be better at it now, but just like self-care, it's a very foreign concept. It was a very foreign concept to me, especially when I just first like started doing all of these different things. But I'm trying to take more time now to like, take breaks and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like, what does it mean to chill? Maybe also just because of the way I was brought up. Like as a child, I was always doing like so many activities too. Some of them were mandated by my parents, but others were, purely of my own choice. So it's like doing all of these things. I've always had a lot of interests. Like I love movement-based stuff, like dance stuff. I used to dance a lot too. So all of these like different areas kind of overlapping. So I don't know. I feel like I didn't actually answer you because I don't do it. I don't manage everything.
And it's hard. Yeah. I think like the artist brain too. Like I gotta be doing something all the time, like a lot of the time. Like I gotta be creating something. I gotta be posting a picture, like editing a photo, making a video, like watching a movie, but not just watching a movie, but like dissecting, like the story, the writing, the filming, like that's a part of my brain that I just cannot shut off, and I am just trying to embrace it. Video games is the only thing that I can jump into and be like, okay, like I'm just playing Call of Duty right now, and I'm focusing on what's happening in Call of Duty and not thinking about anything else. That's why like video games has like been like a big outlet for me, because I can literally shut that part of my brain off. But other than that side of my brain does not turn off. And it's weird for us because like music is our work, like music and music technology is our work, but it started as a passion and now became our work. So like, it's so crazy.
Oh my God.
That's all we got today.
I feel like, why do I feel out of breath?
Yeah, I feel like we just like did a sprint.
Yeah.
Folks, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this double feature, back-to-back days of chats with TAETRO and dolltr, aka Claire Marie Lim. Thank you for tuning in. Please check out 343 Labs website, 343labs.com, because there's lots of amazing courses over there. You can learn with people like Claire, other Ableton certified trainers as well. You can learn about different DAWs like Ableton, Logic, for beginner, intermediate, advanced, all the levels. There's sound design, music theory, mixing and mastering with real like legendary instructors. Like that's 343 Labs' whole thing. It's like the instructors are either like amazingly trained, amazing artists, or like previously touring artists, beatport charting artists, etc., etc. There will be a show tomorrow, and I just remembered that I didn't put the right thumbnail in my end screen. So tomorrow's show will be Hybrid Home Studio, and they'll be talking about multi-synth bass lines. So ignore the thumbnail you're about to see in the end screen, but go to youtube.com/343labs and just consume the live streams. That's completely free. Learn from really great instructors, see if you like them, and then maybe you would be interested in taking a class. I appreciate you all in the chat. Claire, thank you so much for taking the time and chatting with me today.
It's so fun. Thank you also for being on my show yesterday.
We're like planning stuff, folks. Like you can expect more, joint content in the future. Watch out.
After the Beatober collab, if you haven't checked that out, everyone go to TAETRO's Instagram and you can see that wonderful thing that we did.
Well, first of all, go to dolltr's Instagram because it's linked in the
It's both
description. They're both there. You can see us collab on a beat, and there's more of that to come.
Yeah.
Well, that's all for now.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all so much for watching.
Thank you.
Peace out.